Tonight, critical condition, a third surgery for a badly wounded congressman as the FBI hunts for new clues. And the game goes on under heavy security. Under criminal investigation, an intelligence source tells NBC News the special prosecutor is examining whether President Trump attempted to obstruct justice in the Russia probe. What happened to him? The father of the American student freed from North Korea speaks out as we hear from his doctors, baffled by what caused his injury. Deadlocked, the Cosby jury tells the judge they can't agree on a verdict. Fire in the sky, a blimp bursts into flames and crashes at the U.S. Open. And ringless robocalls, how more companies are getting around the do not call list and a new push to make it stop. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening to our viewers in the West. We're glad to have you with us tonight. The usual political tug-of-war in Washington took a back seat again today as members of Congress focused their thoughts on a colleague wounded much more seriously than first thought in yesterday's shooting attack in Alexandria, Virginia. Congressman Steve Scalise is in critical condition, along with a lobbyist. They were the most seriously injured when a man opened fire on Republican lawmakers who were practicing for a charity baseball game. And tonight, we're hearing from the shooter's wife for the first time as that game is now underway. Republicans and Democrats in a bipartisan face-off, mindful more than ever that they're on the same team. NBC's Tom Costello has the latest.
At Washington Hospital Center tonight, Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise remains in critical condition, having undergone a third surgery since yesterday morning. Vice President Pence at the hospital today. President and Mrs. Trump visited last night.
He's in some trouble, but he's a great fighter, and he's going to be okay, we hope.
Doctors say Scalise, 9 years in the house, was shot in the left hip. The bullet traveled across his pelvis, fracturing bones, damaging internal organs, and causing severe bleeding that required multiple transfusions. His wife and close friends by his side.
He has a long fight to get back to his physical self, but I don't think his voice will be muted long.
Another victim remains in critical condition. Lobbyist Matt Micah, shot multiple times in the chest and arm. He suffered massive trauma and is breathing with assistance, though conscious. Authorities are still trying to answer why suspect James Hodgkinson came to Washington, sleeping on a mattress in the back of his van for 3 months and bringing a legally purchased SKS assault rifle like this one. Why he'd used his weapon to attack a team he'd watched practice for weeks remains a mystery, even to his wife, who hadn't seen him since March.
I had no idea this was going to happen, and I don't know what to say about it. I can't wrap my head around it.
Meanwhile, universal praise for 2 Capitol Hill police officers who immediately returned fire.
We're especially grateful to the brave police officers who ran into danger.
Among the questions, do members of Congress need more security when not on Capitol Hill?
It seems self-evident that when the teams are practicing, there should be security there.
Also today, Zach Barth, a congressional staffer, shot in the leg.
It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. We're all Americans.
A sentiment echoing across the city, with some lawmakers conceding they need to tone down the rhetoric.
I'm actually somebody that needs to also measure my language and response and not necessarily punch right back.
This evening, under heavy security, a bipartisan crowd for the charity baseball game between Republicans and Democrats.
I'd like to see some good baseball, but I think people are coming together after a tragedy.
Determination that this good-natured annual tradition will go on as planned. President Trump is not here tonight, but he did record a video message for the crowd. The Republicans are going to be wearing yellow baseball hats, LSU hats. That is the alma mater for Congressman Scalise. And while both the Republicans and Democrats say this is all about a show of unity, they both say they really want to win. Lester.
Well, we hope it's a good game. Tom Costello, thank you. The investigation that's been swirling around President Trump's campaign for almost a year has now for the first time landed directly on him. NBC News has learned the President of the United States is now under criminal investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller for possible obstruction of justice over whether he used his influence to try to close down elements of the FBI's Russia probe. The major legal shift apparently occurring shortly after the president fired James Comey as FBI director. and then admitted to us in an exclusive interview that he had been thinking about the Russia thing when he fired him. White House correspondent Kristen Welker has details.
Tonight, a major bombshell in the Russia probe. Special counsel Robert Mueller is launching a criminal investigation into President Trump for possible obstruction of justice, according to a former senior intelligence official. The president ignoring shouted questions today.
Do you believe that you are under investigation now?
But not holding back on Twitter, calling it the single greatest witch hunt in American political history, and in a rare afternoon tweet storm trying to shift the focus to his former rival, Hillary Clinton. Crooked H destroyed phones with hammer, bleached emails, and had husband meet with AG days before she was cleared. And they talk about obstruction, but the FBI cleared Clinton of any wrongdoing. Last week, ousted FBI Director James Comey was asked whether he believed the president's request to back off the investigation into National Security Advisor Michael Flynn amounted to obstruction.
That's a conclusion I'm sure the special counsel will work towards to try and understand what the intention was there and whether that's an offense.
The former intelligence source tells NBC News Mueller has requested interviews with top intelligence officials, including Director of National Intelligence Daniel Coats, who appeared on Capitol Hill today in a closed session.
There's rarely a smoking gun, so a prosecutor tries to string together a pattern of conduct to paint a picture of someone who's trying to stop an investigation.
Today, Trump surrogate Newt Gingrich tweeting, should be clear, Mueller is the anti-Trump special counsel, but other Republicans defending the probe.
It's not a witch hunt, no. I mean, I think that, he's got a job to do.
The criminal inquiry coming 146 days into Mr. Trump's presidency, starting earlier than any other modern-day president, including Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton.
This now becomes more than drip, drip, drip. This is a torrent, and this torrent could continue in a way that makes it very politically perilous for this president.
Tonight, the vice president's office says Mr. Pence has retained a personal lawyer to represent him in the special counsel investigation. As for the president, even if Mueller finds obstruction of justice, only Congress can take action. A sitting president cannot be indicted, only impeached. Lester.
Kristen Welker at the White House. Thank you. Tonight, we're hearing from the father of that American student freed by North Korea this week after being sentenced last year to 15 years of hard labor for allegedly stealing a sign. Medically evacuated home to Ohio with a devastating brain injury that has doctors mystified over how it happened. NBC's Ron Mott has those details.
22-year-old Otto Warmbier now lying in a Cincinnati hospital as his father spoke to reporters in the same jacket Otto wore when he begged for his freedom.
He saved my life. Otto, I love you and I'm so crazy about you, and I'm so glad you're home. You are such a great guy.
Today, doctors treating Warmbier, who arrived Tuesday night, said he has extensive loss of brain tissue from his heart stopping, depriving it of oxygen.
His neurological condition can be best described as a state of unresponsive wakefulness. He has spontaneous eye opening and blinking.
Doctors don't know what caused his heart to stop, saying it appears to have happened over a year ago. There are no signs of broken bones. The family is asked not to discuss his prognosis.
He has not spoken. He has not engaged in any purposeful movements or behaviors.
North Korea claims Warmbier contracted botulism poisoning, then slipped into an unconscious state after taking a sleeping pill. Doctors could find no evidence of botulism.
Even if you believe their explanation of botulism and a sleeping pill causing the coma, and we don't, there is no excuse for any civilized nation to have kept his condition secret.
The U.S. sent a team to North Korea to negotiate the release of Otto and 3 other Americans still held there. Last night, President Trump called Fred Warmbier, who suggested a change at the White House helped free his son.
Question is, do I think the past administration could have done more? I think the results speak for themselves.
Warmbier said the ex-basketball star Dennis Rodman's recent trip to North Korea played no role in his son's release. What was supposed to be an adventure with other students seen here in North Korea has ended in a tragic mystery. Ron Mott, NBC News, Cincinnati.
High drama at a courthouse in Norristown, Pennsylvania tonight, where jurors told the judge today in the Bill Cosby sexual assault trial they can't agree on a verdict. The judge sent them back to deliberate further. The question now, will there be a mistrial? NBC's Stephanie Gosk is there.
The crowd grows bigger and louder, waiting for a verdict that for now is out of reach. The jury of 7 men and 5 women say they are stuck deadlocked, unable to unanimously agree on any of the 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. Judge Steve O'Neill sent them back to try again, but added they should not feel compelled to surrender their honest belief. Bill Cosby's spokesperson energized by the news.
Today, we have really seen Mr. Cosby get the justice that he was looking for.
Morning, guys. Andrea Constant accuses Cosby of drugging and assaulting her in his Pennsylvania home in 2004. The comedian says what happened that night was consensual. The jury has deliberated for more than 35 hours, longer than some of the most famous celebrity trials, including Michael Jackson, Martha Stewart, and O.J. Simpson. A hung jury is starting to feel like a real possibility.
A deadlocked jury is good news for Bill Cosby. It means he has at least one ally or friend on this jury, even after all the evidence has been in. If he doesn't lose that friend, then he gets off from this case.
Inside the courthouse this afternoon, Constant posted video playing basketball with the message, "Always follow through." Down another hallway, the jury deliberated on.
If the jury returns still deadlocked, the judge can send them back a second, even a third time, but a verdict becomes increasingly unlikely. And if this is a hung jury, the DA is going to have to decide whether he wants to try this case all over again. Lester?
All right, Stephanie Gosk with that late update. Thank you. Now to a frightening scene caught on camera today in the skies over Wisconsin. Golf's U.S. Open being played when a blimp flying overhead suddenly bursts into flames and came crashing to the ground nearby. First responders rushed to the rescue of the pilot. Here's NBC's Kristen Dahlgren with more.
With shocked golfers and spectators at the U.S. Open looking on in horror, the blimp deflates and plummets in flames.
Oh, my God.
It went down in a hurry. Probably within 5 minutes, there's 3 fireballs.
The blimp's only occupant, the pilot, making it out before the explosion, but suffering serious burns. Incredibly, the only victim. The crash just a half mile from the Wisconsin golf course where thousands gathered for one of golf's major tournaments.
You think this is a cool thing, and then all of a sudden it just, next thing you know, it's on fire and it's going towards the ground.
The advertising company which owns the blimp tweeting out this picture of the pilot's view just minutes before the crash. Local sheriffs say their initial investigation indicates mechanical problems. The FAA and NTSB now assisting to see how the blimp, such a common sight over large crowds, could have ended up like this. Kristen Dahlgren, NBC News.
In London, the death toll continues to rise after that devastating high-rise fire. Officials say at least 17 people are now confirmed dead, with many residents of the apartment building still unaccounted for. Prime Minister Theresa May ordered a formal inquiry amid a growing sense of outrage over how the fire spread so quickly. One question is whether building materials used in a recent renovation might have played a role. In Miami tomorrow, President Trump is expected to announce some major changes in this country's relationship with Cuba. He'll make it a lot harder for Americans to travel or do business in Cuba, fulfilling a campaign promise and rolling back some of the openings made by President Obama. The changes will have a big impact on airlines, hotels, and potentially intelligence sharing. NBC's Andrea Mitchell has our report from Cuba.
Havana tonight open for business, but now on edge, afraid President Trump is about to shut the door once again to most U.S. travelers. In a last-minute appeal, Cuban officials are touting that they've made America safer from cyber attacks and drug traffickers, taking us to what looked like a normal house, but is really a cyber command post. There we met exclusively with its military chief. She told us that in the past 18 months, Cuba has handed over intelligence on at least 17 cybercrime cases tied to the U.S., evidence like internet addresses used in a suspected identity theft.
So in that case, you did provide those addresses to U.S. authorities?
Yes, the addresses that we traced to the United States for both the suspected attackers and potential victims.
Cooperation, they say, is now at risk. The rollback hits American travelers hard. Last year, nearly 300,000 came here, a 74% jump over the year before. The White House complains that pumps dollars into hotels, airports, and cruise ship terminals owned by the government, largely the military.
The problem, say Cubans we talked to, is that the crackdown would also hurt small business owners, including many women, the very people President Trump says he wants to help.
Like Julia de la Rosa, who owns a bed and breakfast, where Americans now make up 2/3 of her customers.
So what's going to happen to your bed and breakfast if the rules change and you get fewer Americans able to come?
I'm afraid. I don't want to think about it.
We heard the same story from other small business owners.
Going into the American market is key.
The owner of this dance school is counting on teaching salsa to a steady stream of Americans. But if the music stops, Vladimir Putin is ready to step in. Russia recently forgiving billions in Cuban government debt and winning the bid to build Cuba's new railroad. There's even talk of reopening a Russian military base, only 90 miles from the U.S. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Havana.
Still ahead tonight, those annoying robocalls have gone a step further, hijacking your voicemail without even a ring. The new effort to crack down. We'll be right back. Unwanted robocalls are already the #1 consumer complaint with the FCC, and as more people put themselves on the do not call list, more and more telemarketers have figured out a way around it by filling up your voicemail instead. And NBC's news business correspondent Jolene Kent tells us there's a new effort underway to fight back.
It's a new kind of robocall that sneaks into your phone.
You're a finalist in our luxury prize drawing.
They're called ringless voicemails, the quieter cousin of the annoying robocall.
I've received at least 100 of these voicemails.
Sue Merritt says they often come from area codes where she has important contacts.
I'm a cancer survivor. I still get calls from my hospital in Boston. So for example, when a 617 area code comes up, I feel very compelled to deal with that right away.
The messages go straight to voicemail, filling up your inbox.
More businesses and political groups are sending these ringless voicemails, and now the FCC is considering this petition to officially allow them, exempting them from do not call rules.
One ringless voicemail provider, Stratix Network, says it provides ringless voicemail for churches and hospitals, not only telemarketers.
Ringless voicemail drops are a non-nuisance form of messaging and are an alternative to robocalls, and it really does put the power in that consumer's hand where they can essentially listen to the message or not listen to the message.
But attorneys general in 3 states, 11 Democratic senators, along with consumer advocacy groups, are pushing back.
These businesses are completely hijacking consumers' voicemail boxes.
Privacy experts advise never returning the voicemails, and consumers who want to comment or complain should contact the FCC.
Morning, you guys.
Merritt says the onslaught of voicemails are also interfering with her small business.
Any messages? You can't get that time back.
She and many others waiting for the FCC to make the call on telemarketers' new secret weapon.
Please don't call here again. All right, thanks.
Jolene Kent, NBC News, New York.
When we come back, we'll meet a young man who finds his purpose in life in patriotism. We'll tell you how he's inspiring America. On a week when this country's deep divisions have been exposed once again, we turn to a story we can all rally around. It's about a young man, a craftsman, who works in red, white, and blue, honoring those who serve this country. It's how he found his calling and how he's inspiring America. Here's Joe Fryer.
For Aaron Alexander, the flag is a symbol of freedom and opportunity.
It's incredible.
That smile has been stitched onto Aaron's face for 2 years now, ever since he got a job sewing the Stars and Stripes.
It has to perfectly be matched.
His employer, North Bay Industries in California, hires adults with disabilities, including Aaron, who has a learning disability.
Personally, this is not a job. To me, this is a career.
A career that took him to Washington this week for a conference with the agency Source America.
It's challenging, but I'm going to keep going.
He's telling lawmakers about the importance of employment for Americans with disabilities. Aaron also visited Arlington National Cemetery, where his job came full circle.
Wow.
You see, the flags he makes drape the caskets of military veterans. He met members of the old guard who present those flags to grieving families.
It's an honor, and it's very humble to see all this.
This is personal for Aaron, who was adopted as an infant. Last October, his dad, Randall, suddenly died of a heart attack. He was a Navy veteran. So Aaron, through tears, made his father's flag.
I knew, deep down he would love it.
Making his flag, that must have been pretty special.
Yeah, it was beyond special.
Aaron's job didn't just give him a chance to work. It gave him a chance to honor his father. Joe Fryer, NBC News, Rohnert Park, California.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, the jaw-dropping stunt today that you won't want to miss. Let's end tonight with something uplifting. It happened today high above Niagara Falls. Daredevil Erindira Walenda dangling from a helicopter, sitting in a hoop and performing multiple acrobatic flips. And then there was the real test, hanging for a few moments by her teeth at 300 feet. In doing so, she beat the record of her husband, Nick Walenda, who had done the same thing at a mere 250 feet. We appreciate you spending part of your evening with us. That is Nightly News for this Thursday. I'm Lester Holt. For all of us at NBC News, thank you for watching and good night.